Morning, Trainiacs. After really like 5 weeks of not taking a rest week because I was traveling so much and my schedule was all over the map and I kind of just trained when I could and rested when I could, I am officially on a rest week. And I love rest weeks. But rest is the least sexy thing that I talk about on this channel, so I'm not gonna talk about it today. Today, I'm gonna talk about probably the most popular thing that I've been talking about lately, and that is heart rate training. I'm gonna talk about the biggest benefits that heart rate training offers, and I wanna talk about a big announcement that involves getting something to all of you and your involvement with it as far as heart rate training goes. We'll get into all that right after short recovery ride, short run. Stuff. 30 minutes on Zwift with rest week going on instead of the 4 intervals of what I posted on my Instagram last week. It was just 2. And then got on the treadmill for 10 minutes with the incline cranked up to 6 because I've got race pace work sprinkled in throughout the rest of the week. But in Puerto Rico, there's some hills, so do a brick run with the incline cranked up. That's gonna hurt when I combine that with inclined race pace work. Just realized that. All right, the usual. Give me a half a second in YouTube time to go clean myself up, and then we'll talk about the benefits of heart rate training and what we can do together to train by heart rate. So if you haven't done so already, go to triathlontaren.com/HR training. This is the starting point of getting going doing triathlon training by heart rate. Speaking of healthy hearts, I am on a treadmill while we do this right now because it's later in the day and I've been sitting editing stuff. Actually shortening a whole bunch of the swim workouts on Team Trainiac. So what I'm gonna give you here are 5 of the benefits of triathlon training from heart rates and 4 drawbacks for triathlon training via heart rate. So the first benefit is that it can make you faster while feeling easier. So often a lot of these signals that are going through our bodies and our brains that are telling us to slow down are derived from, oh, that heart is really getting really high. Well, I was listening to a podcast with our pal, Dr. Dan Plews, the 2018 Ironman Kona age group winner and all-time age group course record holder, and he said that as you get fitter and you strengthen your cardiovascular system, you can train at very high rates with a very low heart rate. He said himself, in fact, he can do a 4-minute running kilometer at his sub-zone 2 pace. Wild. Very crazy. I can't do it. I'm not even close to that. So what can happen is if you train the bottom end of your heart rate to be really strong, it's going to allow you to feel a lot easier because your heart rate's going to be beating lower as you go faster. Next thing is that it keeps you from getting overtrained because by going with heart rate, you get the appropriate dose of intensity based off of what your body would allow. Now, in the case of a power meter on a foot pod when you're running or on a bike, if you are sick, well, your power zones are what they are. But in heart rate, if you're a little bit sick, your heart rate might climb a little bit easier. Or if you're feeling really good, it might take a little while for it to get up. So by going with heart rate, it's going to be a little bit more customized to how you're feeling that day. The third benefit is that it's inexpensive across sports. You can buy one heart rate monitor that applies to both running and cycling. You can buy a damn good one that only costs about $100 or $200. About the cheapest power meter that you're going to get, which is fairly questionable with its accuracy, it's about $300, and it only covers cycling, not running. So you can get really, really good training both with your running and your cycling for far less. It's also versatile. It's not just useful in training. You can use it to gauge your readiness levels, similar to how I use the Oura Ring to measure HRV. You can use overnight resting heart rate as a very similar measure to readiness levels that HRV will give you. They're very strongly correlated. So with that $100 to $200 purchase, you get running, you get cycling metrics, you get readiness level, you get fitness level. Same can't be said for a power meter. Now finally, I would say it's appropriately sophisticated. Some people say that if you really want to take training seriously, that you have to have things like a power meter. Well, I trained exclusively off of rate of perceived exertion and heart rate for the first 7 years that I did triathlon. 107 sprint triathlon, heart rate. 214 Olympic distance triathlon, heart rate. Beyond this, Cam Worf in our How to Bike Masterclass said that come race time, he uses heart rate to do his pacing, and sports scientists that I've worked with that coaches ITU athlete Tyler Maslawchuk, he says that for quite a number of years, heart rate and perceived exertion is what you want to use to start getting a sense of what your body's capable of. Now, all of that does not mean that it is completely infallible. Let's get into the 4 drawbacks. Number 1, and this is where everyone says that it's not as accurate as a power meter, and I completely agree, but I think that that has both a good side and a bad side. It's that it's quite variable. Go to a hot weather race, your heart rate's probably going to be a little bit high. Go to a cold weather race, heart rate's probably going to be a little bit low. You go to altitude, heart rate might be different. In a whole bunch of different circumstances, your heart rate can change a fair bit. And that's why I think it's important to have things like heart rate and perceived exertion to know if your heart rate has a reason to be off, why is it off, and do you need to change your training accordingly. Second thing, and just about everyone on Team Trainiac is experiencing this right now, is that a huge part of heart rate training is low heart rate training, building up that low end of the strength in your heart rate so that you can go faster while it feels easier. However, when you first start doing it, it is extremely hard to keep your heart rate that low. That, to me, actually is like a benefit because it shows you how much potential you've got to get faster while feeling easier if you train that. But it's very hard for some people to get into their head, oh man, I might have to take some walk breaks to keep my heart rate that low. Third thing, this is totally legitimate, whereas power, if you step up out of the saddle and you start putting down power, boom, power increases on your computer. Doesn't work that same way with heart rate. Heart rate, there's a lag, so it's not as easy to use for those instant, really quick efforts where you're trying to get to a heart rate within a few seconds. Doesn't happen that way. So it's not quite as accurate for those short efforts, which is why I start combining heart rate and perceived exertion. It's powerful stuff, but has some drawbacks. And the final thing is the decoupling effect between heart rate and perceived exertion because of cardiac drift that happens at the end of a workout. Cardiac drift is what happens as your heart rate is gradually just increasing throughout the course of a workout, even though your effort might be staying the same. This is just a steady increase in your heart rate. Now this is legitimate. What can end up happening is if I were to prescribe Team Trainiac athletes a zone 2 run that's just steady and said has to stay under your heart rate the whole time, well, in that case, it's gonna be really hard to stay under that heart rate at the end of it. So what we'll often do is have a fast chunk at the end where 45, 60 minutes in, by the time heart rate, cardiac drift has really set in and that heart rate isn't quite so accurate and easy to stay under, you can just let the dogs out and say, hey, doesn't matter. So there are ways that you can build really effective training plans with these limitations in mind. That's just a nice short little walk to get the blood moving in the afternoon. So here's where it comes to what you and I can do together. Gracie. Pig. Gracie just let out a giant toot. I hope the camera picked that up. So go to triathlontaren.com/HR training. Even if you've already downloaded that, don't worry, we're gonna send out an email because what I'm starting to compile is a how to use heart rate training for triathlon training book. Ebook might actually even be like an actual book that we'll put together. What I want to do is everyone who's interested, there's going to be a form that will email out when you put your email address in at triathlontaren.com/HR training, and you can submit the biggest questions and challenges that you have with regards to heart rate training, and I'll use that for a bunch of the content in the book. Everyone wins. All right, Trainiacs, go to triathlontaren.com/HR training. Help me help you get your heart rate stronger. Later. Gracie, you pig.